thank you for attending this evening, esteemed members of the La Cresta Property Owners Association. I seek a position on the board of directors with your support because I am deeply committed to preserving our community's integrity and enhancing its transparency. The LCPOA plays a pivotal role in safeguarding property values and the unique character of La Cresta. I'm honored to be a candidate for the board of directors, and I'd like to share some key principles to guide actions for your board in moving to the future. Transparency is number one. Our community thrives when its inner workings are open and accessible. I wholeheartedly endorse recording open board session meetings and keeping the recordings for 12 months. This fosters accountability, provides insight into the decision-making, including the individual board votes. This enables a convenient access for remote attendance to ensure transparency, which is a fundamental aspect of board accountability. Number two, communication platform. I seek to establish a dedicated communication platform for real-time interaction between residents and the board. This empowers members to seek responses and updates without waiting for monthly meetings. Additionally, I propose making open board session meetings accessible via Zoom for remote participation. 3, stable membership dues. Maintaining LCPOA's affordability is crucial for property value sustainability. Any dues increase should follow a comprehensive budget assessment with clear justifications. Fiscal responsibility is paramount to prevent unexpected financial burdens on its members. Number 4, community safety. Our community safety is paramount. The removal of the entrance guard shack without membership vote was a disappointment. I advocate for reinstating a full-time La Cresta private patrol accessible to all property owners to ensure security and peace of mind. Number 5, rural community. Preserving our community's historic and tranquil ambience is vital. Recent additions like lighted crosswalk, traffic signals, and signs disrupt our natural beauty. We must respect wildlife and nature in all decision-making. In closing, I'm here to serve and uphold La Cresta's values. With your support, I will advocate for transparency, financial responsibility, and community safety. Together, we'll ensure that our association remains a beacon of trust, grounded in transparency and accountable governance. Thank you so much for your time and for being here this evening.
Thank you, Rick.
So my name is Kuljinder Chima, or rather known as Gina, and thank you for coming tonight, neighbors. What I've kind of experienced in this campaign is that we have a lot of good people in this neighborhood. We have a lot of alphas, right? And it's a good reason. We should have a lot of alphas on top of the hill, right? To be part of this neighborhood, everyone is individually, of course, to live in La Cresta, trying to survive up there, rattlesnakes may be it. I've heard lately it's been bobcats, right? So I appreciate that at the same time, but I know it's a challenge. And at least for me, I've come through this campaign realizing what at least my top 3 goals are. So my first one, of course, is when you say to me that digital savviness or knowing how to do things in a faster way isn't important, it is. And it's very important this day and age, because if you're like me, you have a daily grind, right? And if you don't, you're retired, and great for you, right? But for folks like me that are still doing the commute and things like that, having the tools to be able to join via Zoom or sign in, have at least a notion of who has been attending the meetings, right? Because there's good data analytics coming from it, is a good thing. And even for the teams that I lead in the Department of Defense, when I go in, I don't always stay with the same team. What I do is I bring in warfighter capability at an urgent speed. And so that means it requires me to work with different teams, different scientists at different, as far as groupings at different times, right? So knowing that dynamic, I have to deal with different people all the time and how to make them function better, right? So it's very important you have these digital tools. In fact, I have at least 2,000 people throughout the world in the United States Navy on another tool called Slack, and they're all talking to each other in like a chat channel, right? And that has definitely improved our awareness of what current events are going around in the world, and there's tons and plenty of them, right? So yeah, these things are important. They're great tools, and they would definitely improve the way our association functions. The second goal, quickly, is to have transparency, meaning that we're communicating with each other. And when I say transparency, sometimes that's misunderstood as your open kimono, and people don't like that vulnerability. But that is very important. Psychological safety, meaning like how we had the questions on Sildo, that it's, you had a choice to submit something anonymous. I don't think people should be afraid.
I'm Rick DeAndro. My wife and I bought our property 21 years ago. We built our house, 12 years ago? 15 years ago. So we've lived here for 15 years, although we were members for 21. We moved here from a community that we're horse owners. We moved here from a community that was an equestrian-friendly community and became not one. It's a familiar story. I'm telling you, of the neighbors I talked to, many of them have exactly that same story. They fled a community that used to be horse-friendly, and they moved here because it's horse-friendly. I'm determined not to have to move again. My goal is to keep La Cresta the way it is. It was and always has been an equestrian, I don't call it an equestrian community, I call it an equestrian-friendly community. It's one of the last remaining places in Southern California where you can own a horse and ride it right out your gate. If we lose that, we're no different than any of the other communities up and down the Southern California region. Every realtor I've talked to tells me that is a huge asset. That is why, particularly the properties in the middle of La Cresta, you got the view homes on the perimeter. Okay, they're here for the view. They probably don't have horses. Those are mountaintop homes. I understand. But the ones in the middle, flat ranches, almost everybody that I talk to is here for that reason. They're here because of the equestrian-friendly nature of La Cresta. That's why we're here, and that's why I'm up here today, because I'm going to fight for that, to keep that amenity in our community. To me, it's very important. Other topical issues in La Cresta, this idea of taking over cul-de-sacs, that I wish I had more time. I'll explain to you why it's completely impossible. It'll never happen. Proxies. Last year, proxies were abused. Our election was stolen because of fraudulent proxies. I was proud to vote in favor of the new proxy rules, and I talked to the election guy today. Not one proxy has been issued this year in this election yet. We have 278 ballots in. Those of you who understand how it works, on the 24th is election day. In order to hold an election, we have to have 50%. We have 887 members. That means 444. So we're not even close to the 50% quorum. The way it works is it goes to an adjourned meeting, which will probably be 1st of October. At that meeting, we only need a 25% or 222. So we already have our quorum so the election will take place. 3 of us, Carla's not here, but 3 people will get elected probably on October 1st. If we're lucky, maybe September 24th. So those are my positions on top. Am I out of time? Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Gafori. I have been in La Cresta since early 70s in terms of, traffic. I am heavily invested in this community, both financially and time. I am currently on board, and typically our voting is 3-2. I don't like to see the way we are operating. We are not operating as a corporation. We are not following procedures. We are not following the procedures equally amongst everyone. So some of the things that I would like to work on, first and foremost, is your finances. I would like to see that we are financially responsible. where we can answer your questions, where we work on contracts based on getting 3 bids, making sure everybody understands what's going on, take inputs, and make a decision collectively. I do not like to spend large sums of money, and I mean large sums of money, just unilaterally, and I would like to stop that. The other issue that I don't believe is fair and equitable is our cul-de-sacs, which has been really, it has become politically restated. Allowing our cul-de-sacs to come into our community is not anything new. In my opinion, your bylaws, your constitution says all of the roads within the boundaries are in La Cresta, okay? It's just that the board has chosen to exclude you. More than half of our members are on cul-de-sacs. You do not get any services that the normal lots are on normal streets. For example, if you live on Avenida La Cresta, we hire security, they would patrol that. If you're on a cul-de-sac, exact same security that is paid with your money does not receive that service. So when Michael Gafuri talks about cul-de-sacs, I'm talking about equity. I'm not talking about paving your road, okay? If you have a pothole on your cul-de-sacs, the association should take a look at it and take care of it. You paid for it. It's taxation without representation. They collect your money, but they don't give you the service. Some of the other issues that we have that we need to take a look at is our constitution. We incorporated back in '69. There are things that doesn't apply anymore. We need to work on those and change that. All in all, I like to see that we can run a cohesive board, collective board, and good communication with the members where they do understand we work for you, not you working for us. Thanks for being here.
Please ask you to hold your applause until the very end. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for showing up tonight. I know it's a bit of a trek from La Cresta. My name is Sylvia Hernandez. I want to start out making a clarification because there's been a lot of misrepresentations that I want to abolish the trails and not maintain them. Absolutely false. I don't think myself nor any of the other candidates have ever said that. So that is absolutely false. Just a little bit about me. My husband and I have been in La Cresta for close to 14 years. My husband served on the board for 4 years. I've served on the CC&R committee years back. I've served on the Leads opposition group for the power line that was going to start in Lake Elsinore and end up impacting us. I was the Cresta POA contact person for the Santa Rosa Plateau group for the short-term rental ordinance 927 revisions for the party houses, the Airbnbs that luckily we haven't had any more issues with. I own 2 successful corporations, have run them for close to 20 years, so I do bring a business background. My main concerns, my key pillars are transparency, more transparency, definitely. Membership awareness and participation. What does that mean? That with big projects, I think we as the members should have a say in how our money is spent and not let the board make unilateral decisions without our feedback. So that's very important to me. Looking at the budget, see if we can make some reductions that make sense without impacting major issues. Better management practices, preserving the horse trails and doing a better job maintaining them, because the horse trails that I've used, and I don't have horses, but I do walk them, they're in pretty bad shape, and I had actually brought this up to the previous Trails Committee chair, so that's a big thing.
30 seconds.
And the other one is the emergency fire exit. For years, I've been bringing this up to the board. They've done nothing. We're gonna end up like Paradise, Lahaina, because the so-called evacuation routes now, I have driven every single one of
10
them.
seconds.
And they are not feasible, especially if you have horse trailers. It's not gonna work, folks. And there are options that we could use our money better.
We'll just pass this. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Chris and I have been either on the board or have attended these meetings for 15 years, like I said. Every president, a new one almost every year, has a different style. Some years they're very disciplined and they're really into Robert's Rules of Orders and parliamentary procedure. And then that'll go too far and people feel restricted. And the next guy will come along and say, I'm going to loosen all that up. I'm going to allow more audience participation. But then the meetings get out of control. Can't get any work done because you're spending, you're at a board meeting. You got a certain amount of work that has to get done at a board meeting. So I respect the democratic process. Our country was built on debate and argument. That's what it's about. We're a democracy, and the way we arrive at conclusions is by debating the issue, and then we vote after we have all the facts, and the chips fall where they may. Recording the meetings, I don't think well, first of all, our current manager, their policy prohibits, they will not be recorded. Every attorney I've talked to, every legal advice, go to the Davis-Sterling Act, they all say the same thing. We do not advise we advise you not to record the meetings. We are volunteers. I'm being recorded right now. If I say the wrong thing, I could be sued personally. Who's going to volunteer for that? So recording, and as far as knowing who votes how, look on the website. The minutes for every meeting are there. They tell you exactly who voted, yay, nay, or abstain. It's all right there in our minutes. It's not all this talk about being more transparent. We're completely transparent. Do we make decisions on our own? Yes. That's what we were elected to do. And I've heard a lot of talk about term limits. We have term limits. They're called elections. So if you don't appreciate the way I vote, then don't vote for me and find a candidate that more closely aligns with what you think.
The way I look at our meeting is, it's no different than running any other business meetings. I would not allow management company to run our meeting or be disrespectful to any director or any member that has taken time to come in. Just because we have a difference of opinion doesn't mean that we have to get rude and rambunctious with the other person. I have personally experienced that, and I don't appreciate that. I have been both as a member many times at our meetings in La Cresta, and I have been on the board before 10, 15 years ago, and I have been on the board for the past 2 years, so I understand exactly how both sides feels. I would not allow, I look at it comes down to leadership. Board of Directors, I would like to see that they would come to the meeting without private agenda. It shouldn't be a rehearsed meeting. In other words, I would come in, I would set up a question, and the group of people from the audience support that, and we go through this motion that is as plastic as it can get, okay? It's so obvious it has become, and that creates a lot of tension. We need to stop that. The president should have the command of the audience and command of the board, and really work on the agenda that is posted for the betterment of the membership, nothing else. Thank you. Oh, that's all right.
Thank you. First and foremost, I think it's crucial that we have a management company that does what they're actually supposed to do, which is manage. And that means manage the board of directors, because that's what they were hired for. In my experience attending numerous board meetings, that has not happened with this last management company. Things that should have been called out, which is their job, were not. And I also agree that recording sessions is good. We used to have a sign-in sheet also. That disappeared for no reason. I also think that there should be more time given for audience to participate. And in my experience, when I have participated, I have been shut down because they don't like what I have to say, and that should not be the case. It should be neutral. They should take everyone's comments equally and make decisions based on what the audience, the members want, not their own personal agendas. Another issue is there's no consequences for people in the audience that are being disruptive. I have seen a lot of members heckle at directors if they ask questions, and have even experienced them cursing at them. That's not acceptable in a board meeting, and I don't care who they are, if they're the wives or cousins or whatever of the board members. That should not happen, and they should be asked to leave.
But just, you can surmise on that.
Well, California corporate law is a good measure to follow, which is if the budget item exceeds 10% of the annual budget, then this should go to vote of the membership. Okay, because you just can't make those decisions, and having 3, which would be a board majority, making such catastrophic decisions for the entire majority. That's kind of one of the reasons that we need to have more member participation, which is why I advocate to have an open platform to enable the members to more participate in the process of the board. I'd like to see more of that. Some folks say that the membership is apathetic. I don't think that's by consequence. It may be by design. We don't know. What we need to do is have the ability to have more member participation. Thank you so much for coming, and that's why we're here.
I have the same answer too. It's 5% for the capital investment rules and 5 or 10% of the budget. The one thing I would want to implement, right, for business practices to be expedited is digital voting, right? Not too long ago, I provided Avalon with a quote from one of, there's at least 3, more than 3, about 5 company or service companies that will give you digital voting. For the one that I gave them as an example, the one vendor would give you 10 votes throughout the year for your entire community, right? And you can use it whenever throughout the year. And then, they would vote, or they would, if you didn't want to do questions, you could do surveys of your community, right? So this way you have the right participants, only your community participants, not like Nextdoor where the survey is launched and anybody can respond to it. This one in particular is effective for this community. So you have 10 votes throughout the year, and you use those as you wish. And that's kind of how to expedite our procedures.
So it's important to distinguish between the budget and the reserve. The reserve is used to pay for, like right now they're doing a paving project on Avenue La Cresta. That job is $72,000. A few years ago, we did $700,000 worth of paving work in one contract. That's reserve money. Then you have your budget. That's a different matter. That's your day-to-day, the guys that pick up the trash and the guys that mow the sides and the weed kill and all that stuff. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, 5 or 10% of what? Are you talking about the operating budget? Are you talking about the reserve? But regardless, at this point, there is no law, no rule in our CC&Rs that tells us we have to go to the membership at a certain percentage or a certain number. We spend about $500,000 a year on the roads. This year a little lighter because we skipped a year. We wanted to bring our reserve fund up. But so elections cost a lot of money. They cost thousands of dollars. I think this last one for the de-annexation, I think it was $5,000. So how are we supposed to ask the members every time we want to do something? I mean, we were elected to use our judgment and spend the money wisely. We're a 5-member board. If we don't get 3 votes, it doesn't happen, and we turn down stuff all the time. We have a discussion, somebody makes a motion, we discuss it, we're given all the information ahead of time, we study the subject. Okay, I don't think it's worthwhile, let's not do it, or I think it's worth the money, let's do it. How we're supposed to involve the membership in that process, I understand what you're saying, but imagine how hard it would be to get anything done in our community if we had to go to the membership every time we spent, again, I don't know if it's 5 or 10% of the budget or the overall amount. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. So.
The budget is no different than any other corporation's budget. It's basically a blueprint for us, how we're going to spend your money throughout the year. And if you take a look at your mail last week or a week before that, you have received this year's blueprint. It tells you how much we're going to spend for each committee, how much we have as a total that we're requesting for you to pay for it. That's why your dues goes up and down. Right now, our budget for this year is the same as last year, the same as prior year, and it's $1,025,000. We are supposed to adhere to that just like you adhere to your blueprint when you go to build your home. You don't jump from one place to the other with whatever justification you want. Just because you justify it doesn't mean it's right, okay? So, with respect to the budget, let's stick to what we have sent to people and do that. If we have a pet projects that we want to work on and it comes in for some reason and we have to do it, that would be considered, if it's more than 5% of your budget, which is $50,000 for us, 5% of the 1 million, we have to go to you and we have to ask you permission. Can we spend this money out of our budget for you? Okay? You are paying for all of this, not the board members. So I believe we need to come to you. If you are doing a crosswalk for over $80,000 to $100,000 and it's not in last year's budget or spoken about, we need to come to you and let you know if you want that or not. So we got to adhere to what we send out to you and hold that sacred to what our blueprint is.
I think it's pretty clear. Our governing documents are very clear. 5% of the budget. And if it goes beyond that, you need membership vote for it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, Mike is absolutely right. You know, most of the candidates are absolutely right. We need more involvement, more feedback from the membership. This is everyone's money. It's not the board's money to do whatever they feel like doing with it. How about, ask the membership, are you okay with us spending $80,000 on a crosswalk to nowhere? Can we spend that money on something else that makes a lot more sense, like fix all our culverts that are not the greatest? I mean, it's very clear. Adhere to the governing documents, end of story.
Okay. What is your vision for La Cresta in the next 10 to 15 years? What would you do? What would you keep the same? What would you change? What would you do?
That's a good question. I've lived in the community for over 23 years. I like it the way it is. I came here for the peace, the tranquil, the rural nature of the community, and I don't see that we need any change. I certainly don't see that we need any crosswalks and flashing lights and trying to turn this into Irvine. What's next? Sidewalks? Curbs? Because somebody wants to walk their dog and they don't want to get thorns in their feet? We need to think about the type of community that we moved into, and instead of trying to change it to suit, let's say, a root board that just takes over, we need to remember that we came here for a reason. All of us are stakeholders in this community, and I would like to retain La Cresta as it is, rural, quiet, natural. I don't even like the campaign signs, to be honest with you. I think it's a visual blight. And I think that it's just filling our landfills, and it's totally unnecessary. We have other ways that we can run elections and do campaigns that would be more effective and not trash up the community. Thank you very much.
Quite honestly, for myself, I really want to just run for one term, and I really think what I bring to the floor is my digital expertise, right? I don't plan on giving you guys a 10 to 15 year vision, and the reason why is because I think that the job that the directors were meant to do was very simplistic, right? When I said in my initial announcement, back to the basics, right? We have elevated what we were supposed to do as, the directors, right? If you wanted that, you should have probably run for Kevin Jeffries' spot as a representative, right? Because he's the one who's supposed to be largely taking care of your communities, right? Or you should be an aide to him to convince him or influence him, right? But I think that we need to take a look at the authority that our directors have been given and bring it back down to those basics. So that you don't need a 10 to 15 year vision. I think term limits are important. Like I said, I probably would only run one term. And otherwise, there should be a standard that 2 terms is good enough. That's 4 years, okay? So that is plenty for you to impact and make the community better and pass it on to another generation or newer person.
I'm all for term limits as long as we have good candidates on the bench to fill those spots. I'm saying good candidates, people that agree with my values. And 10 to 15 years, I want 15 years from now, I want this to remain an equestrian-friendly community. That's my goal. I said it from the beginning. I've never backed off from it. That means maintaining and completing our trail network whenever possible. If we can add a trail, I'm all for that. I also think one of the most important things, as much as we can do as far as the POA is concerned, to mitigate the fire risk, which is the only drawback to living here, is to keep our roadside easements clear of weeds, graded down so that they provide a fire break. They provide a place for evacuating members, because let's face it, if we're all trying to evacuate at once, it's going to be gridlock on ALC. Fire engines are trying to come in. We need a place for the vehicles. If they have a horse trailer, fine. If not, fine. They need to be able to pull off, not start a grass fire. If they can't get out and the fire comes, you mentioned Paradise. That's how those people in Paradise died. They were trying to evacuate, but they were stuck in their cars. We have to have clear easements. We have to have an open roadway. We have what we call temporary evacuation points, which are 5 to 10 acre parcels that we have a license agreement from property owners. We keep those mowed and graded. If you can't get out, the fire department says shelter in place. We have 2 really nice locations. We're working on a 3rd. You can take your vehicle or your horses or whatever and just go park there. You got a 360 view of the whole plateau, and you can, if it starts coming toward you, leave that one and go to the other one. The fire people told us this. They said, you're better off to shelter in place. We sat in Cal Wester's front yard. He said, I would sit here with a bottle of wine and I'd watch the fire go by. That's what he said.
What I would like to see is a cohesive plan where first and foremost we have a peaceful community. I'd like to see that we work toward a plan that neighbors are actually neighborly to each other. They can count on one another. Where we have a community where people actually want to live here. It's a desirable place where people want to come in. To achieve that, we need a general plan that is to make sure we have good trails, that is for horses, for walkers. We have accommodation for every aspect of our community. We have individuals out here that they're car collectors. There's nothing says that you can once a month to have some events for cars. We have individuals out here for horses. We can have events for horses. But we don't have to make La Cresta only an equestrian community. And mind you, I'm an equestrian. I love horses. I've moved here for horses. I would love to see that the horses will remain here. But that's not the only thing that La Cresta is. La Cresta has a lot of potential, and we have to work toward that plan and have a board of directors that they can pass the baton with the understanding and openness that the next board understands it already as they join us, and they carry on, and hopefully year after year, they would be able to get us there.
30 seconds.
10 years, huh? 10, 15 years. I can tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see flashing signs and poles and crosswalks everywhere. I mean, the whole purpose of moving out to La Cresta is to get away from all that. And slowly but surely, one here, next month, you know, who knows where the next one's gonna be, and we're losing that rural feeling. I would like to see, as Michael mentioned, a better sense of community, because the way things are right now, it's very divided, very, very divided, and I don't like that. You know, I wish we could just come back together and just be neighbors, living in the same space and just not tearing each other apart like we have, unfortunately. And I'll take my responsibility with that. And I like the Cresta how it is. I don't want to see a lot of changes. I especially those crosswalks, and I want to see a better board with term limits that adhere to the governing documents and projects done that the members really want, and not that it's the board's personal agenda. There's room for everything if we could just agree to disagree and come together and make things what they should be in La Cresta, and you know, just don't make it a downtown Disneyland, as Lorraine mentions a lot. You know, we don't want that. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so folks, we are almost out of time, trying to get as much things as we saved a few minutes off some of the questions. I do want to get audience participation, so we would have to be out of here at 7 o'clock. I'd like to ask have a couple people from the audience. We'll try to get as many questions. I'm gonna, if you want to partake to one particular person, that's good. If it's for the whole board, they got to have a quick answer. Otherwise, literally, it's going to be like a 20-second answer to the best of your ability. I know we're short on time, but I want to get, I'm sure these people out here are eager to answer some questions. So, any questions for anybody on the candidate list? Anybody? Nobody? Oh my gosh. Okay, we got one. There we go.
Pretty simple question, yes or no? As it stands now, do you support the trails? And are you supporting the trails when it comes to the budget? Are you willing to pay for the trails as it stands now?
Is that for
Yes or no?
Yes.
That's for one person, or, I'm sorry, sir,
Yes.
is that for everybody?
For everybody.
Okay,
Each
all right.
one.
Quick yes or no? Did you understand the question?
Yes.
Pardon me?
Did you understand the question?
Yes, no extension, expansion, but we take care of what we've got. Take care of our horses in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Yes, continue the maintenance of our trails. Expansion, put it to the vote to the entire community.
Yes.
A big yes.
Yes.
Okay, just hold on that mic, we'll pass it back down. Anybody else? Come on, folks. Can't believe there's not one other question. Go ahead.
For Lorraine and for Gina and for Sylvia, where do you stand on the due structure? Because I've heard from Rick and Michael. Do you want to see that change from the per acre decision?
No.
No?
No.
I couldn't hear the question.
And anything like that would need to go to the membership. That is never something that a simple majority board with 3 individuals should ever make the decision of. Thank you.
So no change, no
No.
change?
No change, same thing. Should go to the
Okay, good.
community.
That was
for
actually
vote.
one big question. Thank you for that. It was one of the ones I wanted to try to get in. Anybody else, real quick, please?
This is for Michael.
Yes.
I was at the last meeting where you talked about the cul-de-sacs,
Yes.
and I live on a cul-de-sac for 10 years. And
Yes.
when we purchased, we were told that we were responsible for it. We accepted that responsibility. There are 6 homes on the cul-de-sac, and we've been there 10 years, and we had repairs done once, which cost each of us about $1,000 in
Yes.
10 years. So how are you going to maintain all the cul-de-sacs and not raise our dues to pay for that?
No, it's a long-winded answer, but 20 seconds, please.
The maintenance of those has to be done through feasibility to see what we have and what we're going to do. That's going to be done through the board collectively, deciding that, sending to the membership, see what their input is. We do not need to raise the dues to maintain our cul-de-sacs. Okay?
Anybody else? Boy, as contentious as everything was on next door, and I can't believe nobody had any other questions. Okay. Cal, you have a question?
In response to the last question that you just answered, Michael, at the last board meeting, the board was presented an opportunity to put together a feasibility study on the effects of the cul-de-sacs towards our reserves. What was your vote on that?
If you could be specific about that, my vote was on no for hiring consultant. I am tired of paying for consultant. If we are not capable for ourselves to do basic study, for example, we can hire professionals that they can walk through here at their cost, they can measure at their time, and they will put together a proposal for you free of charge. I am not for paying $4,000 to some consultant that I can have 3 to 5 to 10 reliable, professional, long-standing
10 seconds.
vendor to be able to do that. I'm not against it, I'm against hiring a consultant. It's very important to keep the item matter as what it is, not to change it. When Michael,
Somebody else raise their hand back here? Or do you have a question?
I'll go. I'd like to know, I've been here 13 years, I moved in, I had a view of a busy Avenue La Cresta and Cali Central, busy corner, which is an all right view. Who up there voted to put the crosswalk there? Because that sure ruined our view.
I voted for it.
All right, thank you.
I
No.
did not vote for that.
Those are the 2 candidates that were on the board at that time.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
We're new owners, we've been here for 3 months. How will you keep us connected, especially the new owners, so that we know what's going on? All I'm seeing is craziness on neighbors. This is our first time. I thought it was gonna be crazy, like the comments, but how will you keep us all connected, all the neighbors, and really keep us together to figure things out and making sure that the Cresta stays as beautiful as it is?
It's a good question. Like a 15-second answer if you guys can do it. Go ahead.
Let me start. I would reach out, just like any other items, throughout our community. We have excellent, experienced tech people, just like Gina, and I would reach out to them, please help us. In today's day and technology, we can communicate free of charge, very quickly. If there is a mountain lion in your backyard, before that mountain lion leaps out of your windows, you can let the rest of the member know what's going on. So I would be reaching out, making sure that we have a good communication set up. And that's very important for emergency, for fire, for crime, for theft, for any kind of accident that we have. It's a must for us. It's not a luxury.
So the question is, you're new here and how do you learn what's going on? Is that what the question was?
Well, yes, and then also for you guys, as board members, how do you connect with the rest of us, to make sure that everybody's on the same page as to what's going on with the money, the spending, everything.
So, we have our website and all the minutes before and after the meeting are there. Cal is our current president. He puts out a letter, an email blast. Are you on the email list? Okay, that's the best way for us to communicate. We have a quarterly newsletter. Of course, you can come to the meetings or you can Zoom in and you can ask anybody anything you want to ask.
Sylvia?
One of my recommendations would be a more frequent newsletter, maybe a monthly newsletter, and a better portal. The portal that we have now is not kept current. You can't find documents, and it's more, yeah, I would have to say a better website and a frequent newsletter. And of course, you know, Kelly Smith has a thing that she puts out. There's Next Door for, believe it or not fighting, just general information, you know. So there's the Cresta Buzz on Facebook. So there's a lot, and you can always reach out to your neighbors.
Gina?
So I would not definitely use Nextdoor. We have, like I said in the Navy earlier, if you're younger, I'm sure Derek gets it, Slack, where it's a chat channel, and if you're working on major products like coding something or so on, you would work with that team in that channel. And this way you have the dysfunction, you can yell at each other, whatever, share things in one kind of environment instead of it being aired everywhere else. Right now it goes to all the 8 communities on the Hill, so let's just think about that.
Yeah, one of the things you may or may not know is that La Cresta on Nextdoor is not all La Cresta. It's not the map boundaries of our community for the LCPOA. So there is a members only page of verified property owners that you can join. That is only members of the community. But to that end, I think that it's very important, as I spoke in my statement, is to have a communication platform that's real time. We all should have the ability to communicate directly with one another, real time, asking the board direct questions publicly and getting a public answer, not, oh, I'll send that email to the board, you'll hear from them in a month. And that's absolutely, okay, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for all coming, you guys are great.
One last quick question would be pretty much a yes or no. We're out of time. We're already at 7. We'll get together at 7. I only get one quick question left because I know we're out of time. Yeah, it's 7:04 now. I want to get one quick question that I'll ask that a lot of people have asked about dues. Just a quick yes or no, 5-second answer if you want to add a couple words in. If elected to the board, would you consider raising dues, or do we need to raise dues? That was asked by a lot of people.
Absolutely no dues increases necessary for our association. We've got plenty of reserves, we've got plenty of money, it's not an issue. We just need responsible spending, and we need to watch our budget. Thank you.
No, same thing she said, the reserves, I think we keep it as it is, we don't touch it. And if there's, that reserve money is of course set for, aside for things like fires, and lately the weather's been terrible, so there's other events that can happen.
No, and no one on the current board of directors is in favor of raising dues. That is a false narrative. It is not true. We had a reserve study that said someday you might have to raise dues. And we discussed that and said, no, we don't think we have to. Somehow that was manipulated into saying we want to raise dues.
I put it in my candidate statement is a no. Not only I would say no, I am returning, that would be my first motion. If I have a board majority support to send you back this year's dues.
Last one.
No. And I was at a board meeting where they did discuss the possibility of raising dues. This current board did. So my answer is a no, but they have contemplated it.
Okay, folks, I want to thank you so much for being a great audience. I applaud you. I want to thank the candidates for coming. I do want to address one question. As you can see, there's an empty seat at the table. Carla Marvin was invited. I have no idea why she couldn't be here. If it was, I don't know what the reason was. You'd have to ask her. But someone did ask that question. But she was invited on the register. So thank you again, candidates. Good luck coming up with the election here. And folks, thank you all for coming. Great job for keeping peace. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.